Hello and welcome to France 24's weekly music show. I'm Jennifer Ben Brahim. Today I'm joined in the studio by an artist who has gone from bard to bandleader.
My love be a front line, be a riot. My love be a fighter, a shade that sisters and saves. My love survived the middle passage, waded the waters. My love be grassroots, organizes movements. The birds,
Poet and community organizer Aja Monet started putting pen to paper at just 8 years old, thanks to a fascination with storytelling and typewriters. Her poetry has garnered critical acclaim, and her activism has taken her from New York City to Palestine. Aja's debut album, When the Poems Do What They Do, is a fluid blend of poetry and jazz. Now, Aja, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to France 24.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we've previously had you on the channel to talk about some of your published work, such as My Mother Was a Freedom Fighter. This is the first time that you've actually put your poetry with live instrumentation. I'm interested to know, do you think that poetry has this inherent sense of musicality to it?
Yeah, so I've been able to work with musicians over the years in different capacities and live performance, but this was the first time I was able to organize a group of musicians to work, solely on a project of poetry that I curated and I was directing. And so it's been a beautiful process. I think for most people, when you learn about poetry, if you learn about poetry in the right way, you learn about poetic devices and techniques. And the whole function within those poetic devices are to work as sort of musical cues. So you have things like tone, rhythm, repetition, alliteration, assonance, meter. These are all sonic references, and they help you read the poem from the page as music, as sheet music, if you will. I think every poem on a page is in some way, shape, or form guiding the reader on how to recite and how to express the poetry. And the music of the poetry, I think, is embedded in the language. That's kind of what elevates the language.
And it seems like music has been embedded in your life since the very beginning. Mm-hmm. You often write about this kind of love of music from an early age. I'm thinking about your poem, My Parents Used to Do the Hustle. I'm interested to know what artists you were listening to growing up.
Well, it was a wide range of music, but I think a lot of time was spent in the cars to and from school. And so the radio was a big part of our everyday upbringing, listening to whatever was being played on the radio. So that was a lot of hip hop, rhythm, soul, R&B music. I as I got older and was able to kind of identify other things, I got into blues, definitely into some jazz, and even folk, alternative music. Gospel was a big part of my upbringing because I spent a lot of time gravitating towards the church and music that was made for, not just the self, but something else, to be of service and worship of something greater than oneself. So I think that was a big foundation for me. But yeah, the range is pretty diverse. My mom, when you talk about used to do the hustle, like that freestyle house, dance music, disco, that's actually a huge influence as well, which most people probably wouldn't know or assume. But I think music is like the thing that narrates so many of our lives. So it's a big part of my life for sure.
You could definitely hear of influences or even see them in the lyrics that you write.
Yeah.
Now, you just played at a festival outside of Paris called Les Sons d'Hiver, or Winter Sounds. You're, of course, no stranger to performing in front of an audience, but this is a kind of the first time you have a live band backing you. What is that like?
Yeah, well, we've been touring for almost a year now. So this has been a lot of growth and expansion, learning how to guide and lead and also to listen and be in collaboration. It's really inspiring, I think, when you're a poet in your room by yourself and you're just writing, or you go on stage and you're reciting. There is a music within the language, but then when you're working with a band, you're in response and having a conversation with what's actually happening. And it helps to push you in your own abilities. You start to find yourself stretching and reaching and being more grounded and centered in new ways. And so I find it really, really inspiring, especially at these times of all times. There's a lot that comes with also the audience. And so there's this conversation happening, a sort of ceremony on stage. But I think the energy of the audience and what they bring to the shows and the energy that they bring to the listening, because we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without that listening is, I think that's a huge part of the musical conversation. And so, yeah, it's been fun. It's been, it's been work.
A learning experience.
It's been a learning experience, but as with everything, you take it with in a stride and growth, and you realize you're a part of a tradition, a legacy of so many other great poets who've done this, who've led bands, who have been, a part of bands, part of musical ensembles, and so that's really beautiful to be a part of that tradition and leaning into that tradition at this time. It's been inspiring,
Well, we're going to have another listen to a track off the album called The Devil You Know. Let's take a listen.
The most important election is in the heart. A campaign of soul, a candidate measured by their courage in the midst of the enduring strength of love. Voting for the inner standing. How we make a way through no way in a basement church or high school auditorium, a family living room. These days, insanity is the sanity. Stifled sobs, despair, distress, thrill. Praise the people. Praise the people. Praise the people's power.
So that was The Devil You Know from Aja Monet's debut album. Now, you actually mentioned in your last answer about this idea of paying tribute to kind of people who have come before. And the album does feel like a real homage to the artists from the Black Arts movement, like Nikki, Giovanni, Amiri, Baraka, and Sonia Sanchez. And even the opening track, I Am, you say, I am because of you, we are here together, there's no me without you. So was it for you important to kind of uphold or protect these cultural legacies that came before you?
Yeah, surely, certainly. I was just having a chat and drink with Mike Ladd, who's an incredible poet, and one of the things he said after seeing the show yesterday was that he felt like, in some way, shape, or form, I was like a spiritual archivist, and I really liked that. I liked that as an idea and a concept, because the clip you just showed, we were trying to show that there are these references that we have. We come to the work that we do in conversation with everything that preceded us and everything that will come after. So there's a deep love and admiration, and sometimes it's subconscious. Like, there are moments where you're like, okay, I'm aware that this person is someone that I'm inspired by, but when you've paid your dues and when you've been traveling and listening, and the things that you absorb, everything that you pour into yourself somehow comes out, and I think it manifests in the work and in the music that you do kind of naturally. So that's been the best part, I think, of creating at this time, is sort of the way that the things that have poured into you seep out into everything you touch.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned this idea of kind of cultural archiving, because the next musician we're going to talk about is someone who has done just that, who's really celebrated his cultural legacy, and that is the Tunisian multi-instrumentalist and producer Khalil Epi. And he's created this audiovisual project called Aishusha, where he traveled across the North African country, recording and filming traditional music. He's actually been on tour with this immersive concert featuring these incredible panoramic video projections of life in Tunisia. I got to chat with him right here in Paris.
Hi, my name is Khalil EP, and sorry, I will speak in French in this interview.
Aishusha is an audiovisual project that blends together music and a documentary filmed over the course of a year about traditional Tunisian music.
Autour des musiques traditionnelles et populaires.
My grandmother is called Aisha, and her nickname was Aishusha. Some of my oldest childhood memories involve me using my father's recording device. I used to mess around with it and record my grandmother. She used to tell me lots of stories and jokes. I still have many of these in my archives. They were my first ever audio recordings. When I projected the film during the concert in Tunisia or overseas where there were Tunisians in the crowd, they would tell me, Oh, I recognize this because I come from that region, but I don't know this other type of music, even if it comes from a neighboring region. I think a lot of people were moved by this project.
C'est ce qui a touché beaucoup de gens dans ce projet.
Stambeli music is similar to Gnawa in Morocco. Malouf is the sort of music that comes from Andalusia. There are also more religious styles of music coming from Morocco, also Amazigh sounds. But of course, all this with certain Tunisian touch, because with time, all these sounds have blended together.
Du coup, il va y avoir une certaine touche tunisienne, du coup, parce qu'avec le temps, ça s'est auto-influencé, ça s'est auto-mélangé.
Tunisia is such a small country that the number of different styles of music show how these different cultures and civilizations mix together. It definitely makes you think about globalization and immigration, topics that are so relevant around the world these days.
Aujourd'hui, du mouvement des peuples et de l'immigration, parce que c'est devenu un sujet central dans beaucoup de pays.
Okay, so I saw you were enjoying that, Aja.
Yeah.
So definitely something to add to your concert list. Now, Khalil is also about to drop an album called Abda, and that's part of his Item Mon Amour project, and that's with his duo that he created with Moroccan rapper Widad Mjama. Now, we've come to the end of the show. It's gone very quickly. Aja, thank you so much for coming in to speak to us about your debut musical project, When the Poems Do What They Do.
Yes.
And you're going to be back in Europe on tour, so make sure to check her out. And before we go, just enough time to talk about another album of the week from Canadian singer of the weekend, and this is his final installment of his musical trilogy called Hurry Up Tomorrow. We'll leave you with the track Sao Paulo, featuring Brazilian singer Anitta and a very freaky video. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Kill me soft.